That's it, Firestar. Burn them. Burn them all. Hey, welcome back to Comic Showcase. This is part 2 of the look at my favorite book of the 90s, The New Warriors. We're going to be in for a long video, so stick around. Let's do a quick recap before I discuss the last 3 charter members of the New Warriors, Firestar, Speedball, and Night Thrasher. The New Warriors was a Marvel comic that ran from 1990 to 1996 and was one of my favorite, if not most favorite, books of the decade. The book was created by Tom DeFalco, Mark Bagley, and Fabian Nicieza, who all wanted to create a book about teenage heroes for a new generation growing up in an ever-changing world. While balancing their personal lives, the Warriors dealt with their fair share of baddies who wanted nothing more than domination over our planet, or baddies that just wanted to be jerks because they could. So far, we've seen half of the team deal with date rape, being forced to serve an evil organization of evilness, getting powers back after being tossed off of a building. No, I'm not going to let that one go. Death of loved ones, getting sent through time, fighting hostile parasitic aliens, losing powers and getting them back, going to jail, dealing with anti-mutant hate, dealing with abuse, finding out that you're a clone, and somewhere in that mess, finding love. If you think this is a soap opera, you ain't seen nothing yet. All My Warriors now continues with a look at the favorite character of a certain hippo band from Connecticut. Ladies and gentlemen, Firestar. This character isn't too far removed from the Ginger we saw in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. She's still the same mutant who could control microwave energy. However, she was unfortunately trained and manipulated by Emma Frost, White Queen of the Hellfire Club. Emma seemed to have this thing against Gingers, so it's no surprise that when Firestar reappeared in the public eye, Emma came to settle some old scores with her since Angelica left the Massachusetts Academy and had a falling out with her former mentor. Emma had her Hellions fight the Warriors on a wager orchestrated by Dwayne's housekeeper, Ty. If Ty won, Emma would let Angel do what she wanted, and in the end, the Warriors defeated Emma. I wouldn't sing Ty's praises just yet, true believers. Stick around for Thrash's story to see what I mean. After Forever Yesterday, a story that saw the Sphinx alter reality into a world where Egypt ruled supreme, Angel found herself in a romantic relationship with fellow warrior Vance Astervick, also known as Marvel Boy. This relationship was put to the test when he was put on trial for the murder of his abusive father. She stood by his side and watched helplessly as he was sent to the vault, Marvel's first prison for superhumans. Angelica was so upset that she, Nova, and Namorita sought to free their friend from the prison transport taking him away. There was a brief scuffle, and Vance took Angelica aside and reassured her that they'd see each other again, and one day they'd be married. Insert sound effect here. Uncle Chris is having a good time watching his stories. It should be noted that throughout the series' run, Angelica struggled with how powerful she was, considering her heat and radiation-based abilities put her on par with Marvel's other fire-based heroes. Still, she remained cautious about using her powers, and through all that, she missed Vance and had to help her father deal with job-related issues. Again with the When the team was in Trans-Sabal, Angelica used her powers to the fullest and unleashed her frustration in this amazing splash page. She vented out her frustration about Vance in jail and helped the Warriors win the day. This is a cool splash page, isn't it? I think it needs to be a poster. Not long after coming to grips with Vance's imprisonment, Angelica got word from her former Hellion teammate James and friend Sam, the New Mutant/X-Force member known as Cannonball, that Emma Frost was in a coma and the Hellions were dead. Gee, I'm heartbroken. The trio ventured into the jungles of South America to visit Fat Ombre, former friends of theirs who were also members of the Hellions. They delivered the news, and upon returning to the U.S. after a brief scuffle with the Hellion known as Empath, Angel decided that the past was now buried, and a new age was dawning. She went to Nita to enlist her aid in developing a new costume, one that would reflect her new attitude. Oh no, she's gonna go 90s on us, look out! Wait, this comic came out in 1992. That was before the Extreme hit. Please proceed. When the poison memories from last video targeted the families of the Warriors, it was Angelica's father, Bart, who was targeted and shot through the heart. Angel, of course, was upset and accidentally revealed to her friend Jupiter that she was in fact a mutant superhero. Whoops. Jupiter was surprisingly understanding and helped support her while her father was in the hospital. See, why can't more humans in the Marvel Universe be like that? Don't worry, the father lives. Rule number 1 in comics. Only Uncle Ben and the Waynes stay dead. By the time Garth and Saul came back to reclaim the Nova Force from Rich, Angelica found that in space, her microwave-based powers could be used without hurting anyone, and in fact were very instrumental in helping to defeat Saul. Of course, this helped to alleviate some of the insecurities she had about using her powers in the first place. After all, they are radiation-based. Not long after that, Angel was reunited with Vance, and before they could live happily ever after, they were separated by Night Thrasher, who was sent to him on a mission to infiltrate the group known as the Upstarts. Dwayne, I like you less and less now. We're going to have words later, sir. When Sphinx sent the Warriors through time, Firestar ended up in Salem, Mass. During the witch trials, and there she met a real witch who had helped her to see the full potential of her powers. Since when are mutant powers associated with witchcraft? And it seems to me that this lady is more antagonistic than being a mentor. We're going to get a little dark for this next part. After the team returned to the present, Jupiter invited Angelica to a party with some college kids. Everyone was having a good time. Angel was missing Vance and was hit on by a guy who asked her shoe size? There's a pickup line for you. Jupiter emerged from a room crying, and Angel found out that the guy she was with had raped her. Angry, the mutant heroine took off after the guy and scared the crap out of him by incinerating the ground near him. Still upset, Angel returned to the Warriors' crash pad and sought comfort with Rich, who had explained that with powers like the ones they have, they can't let their emotions get the better of them, or else they become what they are trying to defeat. In the end, Angel admits that she was powerless to change what the creep had done to her, even if Jupiter went to the police. It's stories like this that make the characters seem real, right? This is why The New Warriors was one of the better books of the 90s. The characters had their faults, they had their issues to deal with, and in the end they were powerless against the stuff that happens to everyday people. Writers could learn a lot from a scene like this. Sure, we didn't see the act or anything like that. We just saw the raw emotion of effects like this, and it was just really, really good writing. As the series continued, she was a lot more active in the use of her abilities, until one visit with Jupiter changed her feelings on the issue. The rapist visited the restaurant where Jupiter was working, and Angel was still enraged about the man's brutish behavior. Jupe said that it wasn't worth confronting him since he didn't recognize her, and she did anyway, by making his food very, very hot. Jupe exclaimed that she shouldn't use her microwave energy on normal people, and if she ever thought it could give her cancer or make her sterile. To paraphrase my good friend Chaos D1, mutant powers don't work that way! Convinced that her powers were giving her cancer and making her sterile, she decided to get herself checked out while keeping her fears unknown to Vance. Unfortunately, the clinic she was at was under attack by a random lady with a grudge number 600, and never found out if she had cancer or not until much, much later. For the remainder of the series, Angelica was unsure about using her powers and was in constant fear of her powers giving her and others cancer, or making them or herself sterile. By the end, she got a little bit more confidence when she asked Vance to marry her after explaining her fears to him. After all of that, we need to look at some comic relief. Here comes Speedball, a mask of... Later, penance, later! Robbie Baldwin, the youth with the ability to create a kinetic field around him, was inept in the use of his powers at the start. He would bounce around and that was about it. However, his usefulness became more apparent as he gained more control over his powers. He was still an important member of the team, and yet even he had his own problems. Robbie's parents often fought over what Robbie should do with his life, be an actor like his mother or an attorney like his dad. Objection! He could have played Phoenix Wright and made both of them happy. His parents divorced sometime after they both found out Robbie had superpowers, citing irreconcilable differences. His mom was quiet about her son's superhero activities, and his dad, being a lawyer, was opposed to superhero stuff and didn't really accept his son for what he was now, a hero. Even through all of that, he maintained a close relationship with teammate Elvin, whose codename was Rage. Robbie was the heart of the team, and saw them as his friends more than anything else. Robbie always did what he felt was right, and even helped his hometown out during 1992's Infinity War, when an evil version of him was terrorizing the place. In the end, he defeated the duplicate by lashing out, and by becoming it, he wondered what that said about him. Are you ever going to go away? Robbie's life hit a bit of a snag when a classmate named Carlton found out Robbie was secretly Speedball, and threatened to blackmail the Warriors into letting him join the team. That kid annoyed me to no end reading this comic. He did manage to bully his way onto the team though, and got him both in and out of trouble. When Nita had a lapse in judgment and the Poison Memories got a hold of the Warriors' address book, Robbie's father was abducted, and our bundle of energy became a little aggravated. Can you give me until September? No one knows what you represent yet. Go away! Anyway, it wasn't a total loss, as this adventure actually brought Robbie and his father closer together. Something very strange then happened to Robbie when he and the others were sent all across time. Instead of appearing in the past or the future, Robbie found himself in the kinetic dimension where his powers came from. He found that he was the dimension as well. Speedball was eventually freed and helped the Warriors defeat the Sphinx. Or did he? I need a beard. Speedy had a tough decision to make by the time Nova drew a line in the sand after Thrash and Rage failed to help the others save Nita. He was the last to choose to go with the others to make their own way, since Thrash was set on doing things his way. It hurt Rage's feelings, but he still had to go with his gut. Not long after that, a young woman named Rena Patel received premonitions of her as a member of the New Warriors, and unfortunately the death of Speedball by an unknown assailant's hand. Once she snapped back into the present, Rena tried to contact Robbie and convince him that he was in grave danger. Eventually Carlton found Rena and brought her to the Warriors' headquarters when Robbie refused to heed her warnings. Sure, if the Miss Cleo act didn't work the first time, bring him to the heart of a superhero team. That'll convince them. With Rena's visions of doom and gloom hitting Speedy hard, he decided to head back home to visit his dad and take a breather. Unfortunately, his powers were a bit wonky, and several of his old villains from when he was an inept ball of energy appeared on the scene. Speedy handled the foes with ease, and wondered how he ever had a hard time dealing with them. Still, when the foes were defeated, he saw a portal to the kinetic dimension, and saw something a bit unusual. Almost shaped like Speedball. It's probably nothing. The storyline known as Future Shock is where we learn if Rena's prediction of doom for Speedball was true, and sadly enough, it was. Sort of. See, back in New Warriors 50, Robbie was replaced by a kid from the 2090s who took on his form and powers while he was still stuck in the kinetic dimension. The kid took on his life and such to the point where he behaved just as Robbie would have. Not Robbie explains the situation when his cybernetic father caused a rampage through time and space, and eventually the real Speedball returned. Some people believe that time is a strict progression between cause to effect, when actually, I don't really do a very good 10th Doctor impression. Alonzi? Speedy reunited with the team and visited Reyes to sort of touch base on everything that happened. He admits that he probably would have made the same choices not Robbie would have. With the team's heart back, Speedy was helpful in the last few issues of the book as they fought the dire wraiths one more time. I put this off long enough. Night Thrasher's next. Let's see how many people he throws off of buildings. Dwayne Taylor, the man on a mission to avenge his parents' death, was a hot mess when the series began, and even by the end. The guy was never really my favorite warrior. After recruiting the team to fight his one-man war against crime, Thrash found that his former partner, Midnight's Fire, was against him, and his sister Silhouette somehow received shadow melding abilities after she was paralyzed. Thrash even apologized to Rich for dropping him off of a roof at the start of the series, and proved for a short time that he wasn't just a bitter, angry guy. Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. As time went by, the housekeeper Ty became a cause for concern as she had been very rude towards Sil, and eventually Thrash had to go in to investigate some shady goings-on with the family business, as the man named the Left Hand had been gathering forces. Meanwhile, Dwayne hated having to be bailed out by other teams such as the Avengers or the Fantastic Four when things got a little out of control, like when Tarax returned. While the team was in Japan on a tip from Gideon that some shady dealings was happening with Thrash's family business, they found themselves embroiled in a war between two families. The team tries to think about what to do and vote in their options, when Thrash loses his cool and disbands the group, leaving them in Japan. Eventually Ty's evil nature was revealed, as Thrash met up with a group calling itself the Folding Circle, and they explained how they were all connected because of a deal made at an ancient temple in Cambodia. They were the children of troops who found the temple, and would be born to serve her as guardians at the Well of All Things. Sil, who was a member of the team, was revealed to be a daughter of one of the men and was Ty's granddaughter. To make matters worse, it was Ty who used her magic to convince Cord to kill Dwayne's parents. Again, this is soap opera level stuff. Ty revealed that she was the one who wanted to bring the Warriors together in the first place, so that young heroes would be sacrificed to this Well of All Things. Not wanting to see his friends die, Thrash was the one who ended up killing Ty in order for the Warriors to escape, and once they returned to America, Thrash decided to make a new suit and reaffirmed his task to stop criminals. But he wasn't going to be doing it with the Warriors. After the Poison Memories killed Rage's grandmother to get revenge on Dwayne, Thrash adopted the boy as he was literally a 13-year-old in a man's body. And yes, this is the correct use of the word. Dwayne understood where the youth was coming from, and eventually became his sidekick. Let's face it, the guy's Batman at this point. With the Warriors sent through time, Thrash was sent to a time in American history where slavery was commonplace. Dwayne had to fight his way out of a plantation, and help the slaves go up north to Boston. Once time and time again finished, Thrash was a bit annoyed at how his group had become much like other super teams out there, with so many members and strange adventures. The team, he felt, had lost his original message. He didn't want the team to be like the others. He wanted to do things that they never did. He didn't even like the press the group got for, saving the world. Meaning he was whining again. You can't go anywhere in the Marvel Universe and not be in the thick of it, Dwayne. It just doesn't work that way. Thanks, John. Oh, and be thankful I didn't scan the parts where he was upset that his half-brother was dating Silhouette, his ex-girlfriend. A couple issues later, a group calling itself Cyan X returned, and said they wanted to do good. They wanted to suddenly be heroes when they had been villainous for most of the series so far. Thrasher saw potential in the group after having one more fight with them. After helping Cyan X find its footing, Rage and Thrash returned to the team to help, and found that Nita had been abducted and brainwashed. Rich, of course, didn't take kindly to his inaction and drew a line in the sand. After all, he was still a bit sketchy over the guy, considering their history. The pair left and went to go work with Cyan X for a good portion of the series after that. The two teams did come to blows later on, and I think it further caused a rift to grow between the Warriors and Thrash, who still wanted to play by his rules. Dwayne still felt a sense of loyalty to his friends and wanted to do right by them, since Cyan X was proving to be a bit extreme. Wow. He acted on a tip from the mad thinker who knew where Nita was, and who, like I said in the last video, was a man who had a keen interest in the team since the beginning, since he felt that they could help his nephew. Rage and Thrash embarked on a solo mission to save Nita, and once they did, they rejoined the group when they faced the Dire Wraith Queen in the last issue. Once the dust settled, Rich asked Dwayne to be open. He promised, and Dwayne, Rage, and Nita finally returned to the Warriors. The team was once again whole. Alright, I'm done. Let's get some analysis in here. Sometimes I swear that working on these reviews is like working on a research paper, only in a good way. You need to show your work, show that you know the stuff you're talking about, and present evidence to the viewing audience that the topic of conversation is good, bad, or just okay. I spent the last couple months rereading these comics and basically reliving my childhood. Memories of the New Warriors came back to me as I read the stories, and I actually found that I enjoyed these more than some of the books that are out there today. Amazing, right? I wouldn't call it nostalgia. I'd call it enjoying the medium for what it is. Entertainment that makes you think and care about our favorite spandex-wearing characters. That is why I held off an analysis for so long. The stories and characters I talked about in the last two videos were larger than life, and I needed to be sure that I covered who I needed to talk about in order for everyone watching to get a great idea for who these characters were and what challenges they faced. I give these storylines high praise for what they were trying to do in the first 50 or so issues. Marvel wanted to create a book starring teenage heroes who were human and still fought against implacable foes, and they succeeded in creating such memorable stories and characters. Like I said before, they started from the ground up and became what I feel was one of the better teams of the Marvel Universe, who were the Young Avengers before there was a Young Avengers team. First 50? Didn't I say there were 75 issues in the first volume? Yeah, I did say that. Near the end of the run, Naziza, Magley, and others had left the book, and the creative team which propelled the book to superstardom in the early 90s was no longer there. Other writers came on board, and the comic was tossed with the Spider-Man books by the time it was cancelled. You could say Marvel was trying to save the New Warriors by putting it in with the Spidey books. The cast of characters changed so much after the 50th issue when the charter members of the New Warriors, like Night Thrasher and Nita, left or were kidnapped, and things like Rich losing his Nova powers again and again may have confused fans who were just trying to get into the series. That isn't to say it was bad. New characters are brought into team books all the time, like in the case of Avengers or X-Men, and I really liked some of the lineup changes in the era. Scarlet Spider excluded. He was a member for all of 5 minutes, and I remember thinking it was weird to have a clone of an adult hero in a team where the majority of people were teens to young adults, and plus it was kind of icky to have him kind of have a crush on Angelica. I think it was more that the villains they fought, like the Undertow, seemed a little too incredible and unstoppable. Yes, they're supposed to be tough, and yet they honestly seemed like the extreme 90s were fighting classic characters and our heroes were losing the fight. The baddies became extreme, and the heroes were really struggling to make a name for themselves again. It wasn't until very late in the series run that things seemed to be like the Warriors book of old. I'm not saying issues 51 to 75 were bad, they just didn't have the magic the rest of the series had. In the end, it was more likely that Marvel's bankruptcy was the cause of the book's cancellation in '96. Despite that, Marvel seemed to care about the characters and their never-ending battle to not fall into the extreme '90s trap. The stories were fantastic, and it still showed teenage heroes making their way in the world, at the same time dealing with personal drama and the latest baddies. I just wish that trend continued. You'll see what I mean next time when I discuss where these characters are now. In the meantime, thanks for watching Comics Showcase. I'm C. Farah, and I'll see you in the funny pages. To paraphrase my good friend Chaos D1 and potentially blow out my voice, mutant powers don't work that way! How the hell does John do that?